Hello and welcome to the Matriarchy. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good, Kath. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We have an interesting episode today. Today's going to be a real issue-based episode. We're going to be talking about food assistance and other issues that are really affecting not only Michiganders, but people across the country. So I feel like we should just get into it. What do you think?
I really do. We have some wonderful guests today, and I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce our one of our guests. Representative Brenda Carter is here with us today. She proudly serves Michigan's 53rd House District, which includes Pontiac, precincts 14 through 21 of Waterford Township, and precinct 4 of Auburn Hills. She is the minority vice chair of the Michigan House Insurance Committee, chair of the Life Insurance and Financial Planning Committee for the National Council of Insurance Legislatures, and vice chair of the Banking, Financial Services, and Insurance Committee for the National Conferences of State Legislatures. Representative Carter is recognized nationally for her work on consumer protection, financial literacy, and insurance equity. She was born and raised in Detroit, and she believes deeply that when I talk to people, I see me in them, leading as a reflection of the people she serves. Her mission is clear: to protect families, prepare communities, and empower futures through bold and compassionate leadership. Welcome, Rep. Carter. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me, Lisa and Kath.
We have another guest as well, who I am delighted to introduce. We have Julie Cassidy. Julie joined the Michigan League for Public Policy in 2017. She is a senior policy analyst with a focus on the social determinants of health, such as access to healthy food and safe, affordable housing. Prior to joining the League, she was a legislative analyst for the nonpartisan Senate Fiscal Agency, where she specialized in health, energy, and environmental issues. Julie holds a bachelor's degree in social relations and a master's degree in public policy, both from the Michigan State University. She believes that food is a fundamental human right. So, welcome, Julie. We're very glad that you
Welcome.
could join us
Yes,
today.
welcome. Yeah, thank you, ladies, so much. So, you probably heard us talk about it. I mean, this podcast is all about pro women and pro democracy, which we believe go hand in hand. But having said that, we like to always talk to our guests about, as a woman, what inspired you to get to where you're at? So use your voice, and what in particular, which women in your life sort of modeled that for you. So I'm going to ask Rep. Carter that question first. What inspired you, and what are the important women in your life?
Well, growing up in a family with 13 siblings and my mom being the matriarch of those 13 siblings, I watched her struggle, okay? And I have the ability to have the lived experience of what poverty can do to a family and how they can just be compartmentalized and marginalized because I lived it. So strong women like my mother, Mary Wallace, my sister Margaret, my sister who recently passed, Carolyn, all these strong women that were in my life inspired me to see what I could do to make the lives of other people better, especially those who live in under-resourced, low-income communities. So it became a passion of mine, especially with food insecurities, housing insecurities. I had the first-hand knowledge. I lived it. So I felt my voice would be very, very important if I was on the legislature or anywhere where I could affect public policy to bring people like me to the table so we could tell everybody what it is. I don't have to read this in a book. Okay. I actually
Right.
lived it and I live in a community affected by it. So that's what's driving me. And those are the women who, amongst many in my life, that inspired me to be who I am today.
It sounds, Rep. Carter, that you feel like you've always had the ability to use your voice. So you were encouraged at a young age to do so.
That's absolutely. And we are really, sometimes we're not in control of what happens with us, like using my voice to lead the 1997 Million Woman March. That was 2.5 million women that converged on Philadelphia. And I would have never thought that that would be a platform I would be on, just like it was not in my purview to be a state legislator. But at this point, I'm affecting changes in Lansing that affects the lives of everyday people, especially like what we're going through with SNAP.
Yes, 100%. And I think you are the living embodiment of why representation is so important, across all the different spheres of our constituencies, right? So thank you so much for what you do. All right, well, pass it over to you, Julie. So, what are the influences on you in your life, and how did you find your voice?
That is a great question. I have to start with my mother, a very intelligent, strong, just very common sense woman who always encouraged me to follow my dreams and, told me that I could do whatever I wanted, as long as I set my mind to it. So, obviously her example was amazing. Just sort of more generally, um, I grew up in a very different environment than it sounds like Rep Carter did. I didn't grow up facing any kind of hardship. I always knew that I was going to have 3 meals a day on the table, and didn't really have to worry about everything. And as I grew older, and started studying policy, I came to understand that that wasn't a coincidence. And it wasn't because my parents were, harder working or smarter or, better than other people's parents. There are systems in place that ensure that some people don't get the same opportunities as others. And I feel like every child deserves the kind of childhood that I had. And so I was really inspired to, try and work more for that systems change so that everyone can have access to the opportunities that they deserve.
Well, thank you both for the work that you're doing. And I think we've got the perfect people here today to talk about this
Yes.
subject matter. I guess, and either one of you can kind of jump on this one. Can you provide our audience with some background on the SNAP program, in terms of how it was, how and why it was developed, and I guess and when? Because I think many of us, including me, don't really understand the whole development of it.
Well, I'll do it from a non-policy standpoint. I'm sure Julie can dig deeper into this. But growing up, like I did, my mother moved us from Detroit to a place called Sumter Township, which I absolutely hated because I love Detroit. But in doing so, she taught us a fundamental skill. She taught us how to go out and grow our own food and raise our own uh,
Mm.
poultry and everything. She taught us how to, survive. So the few times that she had to go on food stamps, a program started in 1974. It was called food stamps before it was called SNAP. Okay,
Mm.
she really discouraged us from doing that. She put in our brains, you go out there and you fend for yourself, you do for yourself. That's what my mother did, and she was a single parent for most of her life. But this program is vital to the families that did not leave Detroit, but actually stayed in Detroit and was subjected to, the intense poverty of urban areas. And it's not just urban, it's also rural and up in the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
But those people who never got developed the skills to grow their own food and do these things that my mother taught me, were dependent on this system. And this system was critical. And right now in my district, almost half of the people in my district are Medicaid, 9,500 on SNAP, and these programs are threatening their very livelihood. So that's my knowledge of SNAP and the food stamp program. Unfortunately for me, or fortunately for me, I really never had to go on the program because my mother gave me the skills. And even if you go in my backyard right now, if you can get the Japanese beetles off of my collards, I have collards and bell peppers and everything. Even at my age, I'm still remembering the skills that my mother taught me. Julie, you may want to go in a deeper policy perspective with SNAP.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so we've had some version of a food assistance program in this country going back to the 1920s, actually. A lot of people don't realize that we've had sort of the bones of SNAP in place for that long. And things, kind of morphed over the years until we have what we know as the SNAP program today. The Food Stamp Act was signed into law in 1964. And over time, as technology advanced, we switched to, from these paper food stamps to an electronic benefit transfer card, mostly, because that's just sort of the way technology was moving. And as a way to reduce the stigma involved with the program, Rep. Carter mentioned that her mother really sort of discouraged the idea of using these programs because I think by and large, people do want to be self-sufficient. They don't want to be looking to the government for help. And so there are actually a lot of people out there who qualify for SNAP, but don't, never try to access it for exactly that reason. So, I think the program right now is facing probably the greatest threat to its existence that we have ever seen. And there's just so much more need out there that we may not even know about yet. So this is a really, really serious issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is it? What is the level to qualify for the assistance?
To qualify for SNAP in Michigan, a family can make under 200% of the federal poverty level, which in 2025 is about $64,000 a year for a family of four. So that's not a lot of money to try and meet all the basic needs for a family of four.
And the Alice population, which I embraced really strongly in the legislature, because a lot of people don't understand the Alice population. They just look at poverty, but the poverty level and the Alice population level is two different things.
Yeah, the Alice population, can you explain what that is?
Asset limited, income constrained, employed. That's what ALICE stands for. And these are a working group of people who don't make enough money to survive on. They have to choose between their medication and their food because of the constraint that they're in. They're working, but they don't get it. They make too much to get help, but not enough to live on.
Interesting.
And in my district right now, I believe about 40% of the people in my district, House District 53, are Alice population. And once again, that's asset limited, income constrained, and employed. 70% of Rep. Tyrone Carter's district, 70% falls in this category where they don't have enough money and they have to choose between food and paying their rent. Okay. So if you take away food, look what kind of situation it puts in a lot of our counties in Michigan. Not everybody comes from an affluent county. But the whole point of it is, it's been the driving force behind what I do in the legislature to protect the Alice population, because that's the population that's going to get hit hardest by this SNAP.
Yeah. So if you're holding like part-time, maybe a few jobs, if you're working full-time and still qualifying for food assistance, like there's something wrong with that. Something fundamentally wrong. Julie, I wonder if you could explain a little bit about the like policy portion of this and like from your lens.
SNAP is a lifeline for so many people. You just mentioned there are people working more than one job even, and still qualifying for SNAP. And I think that is so important for people to understand. There is definitely a stereotype out there about who uses SNAP and why.
Yeah.
And the truth is, 4 out of 5 Michigan SNAP households include an adult who is currently working or has worked in the last year. Maybe they're currently between jobs. But by and large, people who can work do. And they tend to work in jobs that, frankly, pay poverty wages or come with inconsistent hours. They may be seasonal work. The Government Accountability Office did a study just a few years ago showing that about half of SNAP participants who are employed do work full-time year-round, and about another quarter work full-time at least part of the year. And they tend to work for some of this country's most profitable corporations, like Amazon and Walmart. Those are the two employers with the most people on SNAP. So this idea that people aren't working because they're lazy or what have you, it's a myth. And so, from a policy perspective, that's why SNAP is so important, is that even full-time work in this country does not pay enough for people to afford food, and all of their other basic needs.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Julie.
Yeah, that was
You're
very,
welcome.
very on point. And so in an aggregate number, I think, what is it,
1 point.
1.4 million people in Michigan are? Is
Yeah,
that
it rounded it off.
correct?
It's closer to 1.5 million, but who's counting
1.5.
people?
And in that bucket, how many of those people are children?
Ooh, that's a good question.
The children, the disabled, the elderly. I
Mhm.
mean, if you think about SNAP and the stigma around food assistance, there's this like per the stereotype perpetuated. And the truth is that it's people who are working, who still can't make ends meet, and people who are not able to work, and
Absolutely.
Right.
children.
Yeah, and that's the big crux about this whole entire thing that is happening in Washington and the one big that bill, okay? How it's doing a 1-2 punch on our most vulnerable populations, our
Yeah.
seniors. We didn't even talk about the seniors and the Medicaid and the Medicare situation that we have with the shutdown. We've been focusing on food, but seniors, housing, medical, healthcare, all of these are going to be disproportionately hitting communities that are historically underserved.
That's a really good point. We haven't even talked about those other issues that often or that much, I guess. So in that context, then, where are we right now? So today is Monday, November 3rd. I know things are changing quickly in terms of what's happening in the legal system, but where are we right now with SNAP?
So yes, the first benefit payment has been missed. A judge decided that the Trump administration does need to tap into contingency funds that it has set aside or direct funding from other sources by Wednesday, or that they needed to start doing that on this coming Wednesday. So we will see if that happens. I will not be shocked if the administration tries to fight this. So unfortunately, we can't say with certainty that people will get their benefits on Wednesday. In the meantime, I think people are relying on food banks, which, our food banks are doing a great job trying to meet the need. They have been, trying to meet this skyrocketing need since the pandemic hit. And so
Yeah.
we really appreciate the work they're doing, but it's not a substitute for SNAP. For every one meal that our food banks provide, SNAP provides 9. So we cannot food bank
Oh,
our way
wow.
out of this. It's really important that
Wow.
these contingency funds are tapped into, and that Congress comes to an agreement to reopen the government and get those funds flowing again regularly. And it is possible for them to come to an agreement that preserves our SNAP payments and fully funds the healthcare premium tax credits that are
Yeah.
about to expire.
So do we want to lean into that a little bit? Because that is sort of the bigger issue on the table, right? I
Mhm.
mean, why we're in a shutdown right now. Can you explain a little bit more about that, about what the disagreement between the people in Congress is about and why we're in the shutdown?
Sure. So, as you're probably aware, as part of the Affordable Health Care Act,
Mhm.
but one of the things that was included in that was a tax credit for people who don't have coverage through their employer and make too much to qualify for Medicaid. And so these premiums really help people keep health insurance affordable for people. And it's important to note too that these tax credits to individuals through our healthcare marketplace are really giving those people the same tax benefits that people with employer-sponsored insurance get, because wages paid to people in the form, or I'm sorry, income or salary paid to people in the form of income of wages is taxed, but income paid in the form of health insurance is not. So if you don't have an employer-sponsored policy and you have to go out into the individual marketplace to buy it, you're paying for that with money that has been taxed. So it's costing you more than it would somebody who is getting a policy through their job. On top of that, because you're just an individual, you're not bulk purchasing
That's
like an
right.
employer does, you're also going to pay more there. So these tax credits are not a handout. They are creating fairness for people who otherwise would not have any way to get affordable coverage. Those tax credits are set to expire at the end of this year. And so we need to do something about that, because there are people that are facing hundreds of dollars in increases, if not thousands, for their healthcare premiums. And it's important that we do it now, even though we still have, roughly 2 months before those credits expire, because people are starting to, sort of window shop now. They're looking at what their insurance coverage is and what their needs are going to be over the next year. And so insurance companies need to know what people are going to be able to pay. And so this is a really urgent issue. And I really feel that, Republicans in Congress have been sort of painting this shutdown as the Democrats' fault for sort of digging in their heels and demanding that these subsidies be extended. When I think most people would agree that they would like to keep their healthcare tax credits. And that's a really important thing.
Yeah, I wanted to expound on that. Thank you, Julie, for that, because sitting on the insurance committee on multiple levels, I could not have made that point clearer. But when you look at communities that this shutdown is going to impact, and that's our rural, our Upper Peninsula, where they are already closing the hospitals, up in Keweenaw. If you look at it in our urban centers where you have high mortality and morbidity, okay, when you start saying that you're going to shut down insurance, and insurance rates are already skyrocketing. I mean, the insurance plans are they're panicking, okay, that this is actually going to increase our population of uninsured and underinsured Michiganders. It's, in my opinion, really, I don't know what they were thinking, to be honest. I just don't know what they were thinking. And I do want to give a shout out to my colleagues in Lansing, because we were facing the same situation with a October 1st shutdown, which would have been a 1-2-3 punch. But we came to some resolution, even though I don't like all the categoricals that we had to give up. At least we averted the shutdown in Michigan, which allowed us to keep free and reduced lunches, etc., programs like that. So it's definitely on the federal level. And I couldn't agree with Julie more. She put it in a contextual conversation where you actually saw the impact of what this shutdown is doing and which populations it's going to hurt the most.
Both of you just said that so clearly. I think that's what's been missing in the discourse that I've been hearing, is just how stark this is. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that we're in this space, but here we are. Yeah.
And Julie, I wonder also, I've heard some statistics that the SNAP program is really an excellent return on investment, because for every dollar that you are giving out in assistance, you're getting like 1 point, I don't know what it is, 4.7, you know, back in spending in the economy. But I'm sure I'm butchering that. So if you could take over and kind of explain that point, because I think that gets lost in the conversation as well.
Absolutely. You weren't far off there. There have been a number of different studies showing that for every dollar that gets redeemed in SNAP benefits, anywhere from like $1.50 to $1.80 is returned to the local economy, or sort of generated, and most of that stays in the local economy. SNAP supports many, many jobs in our country, from grocery store employees to farmers to truckers to food processors. These are all really, really important jobs within our food system. And ironically, a lot of the people working in these jobs are paid so little that they qualify for SNAP themselves. So, these are the people that are literally feeding the rest of us. We should be able to make sure that they have enough to eat for themselves and their families. SNAP, it has such a positive impact on health. It's shown to reduce healthcare expenditures by about $1,400 per person when we're looking at adults with low incomes. So that's every year. Obviously, having enough food helps kids do their best in school. That's why, again, props to our state legislature. It's so important that we included universal free school meals in our
Mm-hmm.
state
Thank you
budget.
guys for doing that, man. Especially
Mhm.
now. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, just the benefits of SNAP cannot be overstated. It is one of our most effective tools to reduce healthcare costs. So, especially,
Absolutely.
with healthcare and food assistance being so sort of tied up in the national discourse right now, cutting one causes a ripple effect in the other. They're intertwined, and we need to fund them both in order to sort of maintain balance and make sure that people can not just survive but thrive.
Yeah.
I want to comment on that as well, Julie. When I in my bio, I mentioned that when I talk to my constituents, I see me in them. Okay, that is a very important factor to consider because as I go out in the district and I see the people, and I have a lot of homelessness in my district, I have a lot of poverty, a lot of, it's not any given year that somebody freezes to death in Pontiac because of the poverty level. So when you talk about the good that this does for my community with diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, I'm so glad that you crossed over the nutritional value of
Mhm.
SNAP with the impact on mortality rates and morbidity rates in communities like mine. It's just I just want to say this, okay? Because it it kind of hurts me. I don't have a community with a high tax rate. I don't have wealthy
Mhm.
homes in Pontiac. I have people on the corner with signs begging for food and praying that they have a meal. And a lot of times the kids in my district, the only meal they get every day is that meal they get in school. You know, so this is a direct impact on communities like mine. And, just to see that you understand this, Julie, from a policy perspective, and Lisa and Kathy, you're willing to do this podcast that we can communicate, because you'd be surprised. Over half
Mhm.
of the Michiganders are living at or below the Alice threshold, and I mentioned that earlier, and they're going to be severely impacted by this. And I will say this much because I've been going around the state, talking about this, and I couldn't. It's so critical that they end this shutdown soon, or people are going to die.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it straight out there to you.
Mhm.
It's a lifeline that they need. And when it gets to the point where there is no more food distribution centers and there's no more uh, infusion from the state, and the people are beginning to see that there's no food, that's what we're facing.
Right.
So I'm praying that the shutdown ends in Washington soon.
And it sounds like
Yeah.
it's been difficult for Michigan to kind of backfill the gaps from this shutdown in terms of food assistance. Is that right, Julie?
Yeah, no state just has millions of dollars just sitting around to do whatever with, and SNAP benefits in Michigan are in a typical month pretty close to $260 million. So that's not chump change, and we are already facing increased costs to our state because of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill.
Thank you for
Um,
saying that.
yes, that's
I
we
call it,
already
I
had
call
that
it
looming over
HR1.
us. Yeah, so
Not so beautiful.
yeah,
It's not beautiful.
no, not so beautiful at all. It's hard, and we shouldn't have to be backfilling this at the state level because there are contingency funds set aside specifically
$6.5 billion.
for situations like this. We have already paid our tax dollars to the federal government to cover SNAP benefits during a shutdown. Why are they now telling states, well, if you want people to eat, you're going to have to pay for it yourself? That's just not right.
So let's talk about that for a second, because the courts have said that they have to restart this payment because it literally, I mean, is it fair to say it's illegal that they're keeping this money away from people because it's already there, right?
It is illegal. Yes, plain and simple.
I looked into that and I did have some notes on that. I'm not sure why they're getting away with this, but I do know that it was very difficult to get the budget solved in Lansing because the same ideology that's going on in Washington is went on in Lansing, and then the budget cuts that was done to our budgets overall was so severe that a lot of programs like the MDHHS budget and the Leo budget was cut severely, but we were able to recover something with the legality of it. I think that's more in Julie's wheelhouse than mine.
Yeah, is there anything you wanted to add, Julie, on that, on this point of, I mean, the funds, like you said, they're already there,
Hmm.
we've already paid for them. Like, people are gonna die. Children are going hungry
Hmm.
today because of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just exposes the fact that, for all this talk about efficiency,
Hmm.
being the guiding principle of the federal government these days, it's just a lie when
That's
you
crap.
when you get down to it. Yeah. There's nothing efficient about withholding funds that were set aside for a specific purpose. They're supposed to be used for this purpose. Like, if you're talking about efficiency and transparency and accountability, you would release these funds. I mean, there's just no way around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And let's face it, the government job is to take care of its people. Like that's the
So,
whole job of the government.
so you
Like
would
this
think,
is,
Lisa.
you would think.
I
You would
Yep.
think.
I did find my comment on that question you asked about, is it legal? It says,
Hmm.
yes, benefits can be reduced or delayed under certain legal conditions. For example, when eligibility documentation is incomplete or federal funding disruptions occur. Duh. During federal shutdowns, Michigan has sometimes had to issue early or delayed payments to stay within federal guidelines. These actions are technically legal, but they show how fragile the system is when families live one missed payment away from a crisis. So there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I think
And
absolutely.
I think they're using this as just a way to get away with doing this damage. Okay, this is my assessment of
yeah.
it because
Mm,
it's no way in the world I could just wake up in the morning and know that a child is going to go hungry and I can do something about it.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
yeah. And Julie, you mentioned you were getting to the efficiency question, and we do hear a lot of the talking points about waste, fraud, and abuse. Is that something you're seeing in food assistance?
I'm certainly seeing a lot of fear mongering about it. The level of so these are all very different things when we talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. Certainly, there are ways that we can make our programs run more efficiently so there is less waste. You don't have to totally destroy the program to reduce
Yeah.
waste. And when we talk about fraud and abuse, those are different things. And when you look at the overall size of SNAP, the amount of fraud or abuse is very minimal. Most people who use these programs are just people trying to take care of their families, just like
Mhm.
everyone else. Like I said, most of them who can work do. If someone receives like an overpayment of SNAP, it's not necessarily because they lied on their application. Maybe they just made a mistake. This paperwork can be very
Mhm.
burdensome. It can be really complicated for people to understand, especially when they are already spending so much of their bandwidth just trying to survive, on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And that's another reason that these work requirements are so
Yes.
horrible, is that
Thank you for bringing
a
that up.
lot of the people who are already getting kicked off of SNAP and who will be because they're now subject to this work requirement, do actually qualify, but they missed a deadline to get their paperwork in, documenting
Mhm.
that they worked all these hours or whatever. I mean, how many of us have missed some paperwork at some point? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and when you have to, when you are living in poverty, when you're using public assistance, like you basically have to document your whole life to the government to justify
Mm,
keeping your benefits. So it's for your food assistance, it's for your Medicaid, it's for your disability assistance, like, it's all these different things. And some things are going to fall through the cracks at some point. So yeah, when we see, I think it's really easy for people who are not maybe arguing in good faith about food assistance and other public assistance programs. It's easy for them to latch on to these rare instances of somebody making a mistake, whether that's a SNAP recipient or a government worker who's processing their application, or to take a look at these, rare instances of fraud or abuse and say, well, this is clearly what the whole program is like, and we need to get rid of it, when that's not the case. Especially recently, the type of fraud we've been seeing more in the SNAP program has been people stealing benefits from SNAP recipients. So the people using SNAP are the victims. They are not the perpetrators of this crime. So yeah, there's just a lot of people using waste, fraud, and abuse as a convenient excuse to get rid of something because they don't want their tax dollars going toward it. They want to give tax breaks to millionaires instead.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
these
Well
sound
said.
like they're not systemic issues. The systemic issue is the working poor that can't afford to pay their bills and are probably one crisis away from, medical crisis or homelessness or, malnutrition. Because it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but even if SNAP benefits were, installed tomorrow, right, or today, there's the delayed effect, but it's the insecurity that this creates in the system that I can't help but think that this is going to ripple out in people's day-to-day lives and play out in instances. I'm not sure what that would equate to, malnutrition, which would lead to other health issues, and they're sort of converging right now with the politics at play.
I'll take a stab at that because once again, I must reiterate extremely strongly that I live this. This is my everyday experience. And what we're doing, even though a lot of people in my district, they are panicking right now. What we're doing is we're empowering the people in our district. First of all, we're protecting
Yes.
them by getting them the correct information. Julie was absolutely correct. One of the things they do is complicate the process so severely. It's already complicated. But what they did was added additional requirements to the work requirements. And if you come from a district where people are functionally illiterate because the school system itself failed them, a lot of them can't read. Here they go with more complicated information that they have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's before they can maintain the minimal amount of resources that they get. This is what's happening in my district. And one of the things we're doing is we're becoming proactive. We realize that this is here. Okay, well, I've been teaching in my district. This is here. I've been teaching statewide. This is here, and this is what we need to do. So this is my plug I'm putting in here. I hope you guys don't mind. But on November 10th, right here in Pontiac, Michigan, I'm having MDHHS. I'm having MISH come in, CCRT. I'm having Haley Stevens come in. I'm having code enforcement coming in, housing coming in, all into the one big, beautiful bill resource fair where the people of my district and beyond can come and access these type of information, learn how to fill out those forms, learn what's going to happen to them if they don't, and then assist them. We are becoming really proactive because the government has failed districts like mine. They failed the Upper Peninsula. They failed. And if we don't come together as a community and wrap our arms around the many people that this is going to affect in Michigan and beyond, like I said, this conversation is good. I don't know how many people are going to hear it, but what Julie has said, brought across from a policy perspective, what I'm bringing across from a lived experience, I can go right outside my door right now to the left and to the right and take a food basket because they don't have anything to eat. Okay, so in my district, in districts like mine, this is not a discussion. This needs to be an action.
I guess, my first thing is, how can people help you with your resource fair? What could people who are listening to this right now do to help you help communities like yours? I mean, we know people are giving to food banks and that sort of thing, but are there, obviously that, and we can encourage that, but is there other things that they can do?
Yes, Lisa, absolutely. And you have been really there when I've asked the Rochester area Dems to come in there. No matter what, you're there. And what that shows our community is that someone cares. Okay, because right now they're hearing a bunch of madness that's going on in the political arena. And the crisis really isn't who's going to get elected tomorrow. The crisis is who's going to eat tomorrow. So organizations like yours, Julie, I would love to invite you down, Kath, as well, just to come in and talk with the degree of expertise, because just me listening to this conversation here was heartwarming to the point that somebody that hasn't lived this experience understands it, okay? Understand the fierce urgency of now and how it's going to affect communities like mine. And like I said, it's just not Pontiac. I mean, when I went to Iron River, that's in the Keweenaw Peninsula, a place I never knew existed. I saw the same thing. I saw people, a mom, if she's pregnant, she has to travel 2 hours to a birthing center. Okay? We have, you ask what you can do, just be there. Be there. Listen to them. When they come up to me, they finally come up to me and they'll say, Miss Carter, I can't read. What do you think that does to me? When they are over 50 years old, probably a grandparent raising a child, and they say, I can't read. I've heard that more than once. So, Lisa, if they can't read, how are they going to fill out that form?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, we create systems that are just huge barriers that for people to get help. And then we want to take the help away. This is
and then we want to blame them.
this is not it's not acting like a country that cares about people. Let's put it that way.
Well,
So
once upon a time, we were moving in the right direction, and now I'm not sure what's going on in Washington, but if there's a God in heaven, and we all know there is, this is about feeding people. This is one of the most, what you said, Julie, a food should be a fundamental right.
Mm-hmm.
food, housing, healthcare, clean air, clean water, good education. I believe those are all fundamental rights. And you're so right to bring them all up in this, into this big bucket of issues. We're dealing with food crisis right this moment, but you already mentioned, Rep. Carter, that you have homelessness in your district. We know that's a huge problem. And we really do need to demand better, but also, like you said, show up for each other, show up for your community, all of our communities. So thank you for highlighting that.
And Julie brought up another point that was very important. She said that when we all come together and show our care and concern, that will resonate in the communities that's affected. A lot of people will sit back and say, well, I understand Pontiac has high crime and housing and homelessness, but it's not in my backyard. Okay? That type of thought has to stop. They need to see you. They need to talk to you. And they will, believe it or not, all they're looking for is help.
And Julie, how about from your lens? What can we do? People are feeling powerless.
Yeah. I think continue to contact your legislators, especially in Congress. If you haven't contacted them yet, please do so, especially if you live in a more rural community, a community represented by a Republican. They need to understand that their constituents are going to be hurt by all of this as well. When we look at SNAP participation rates, if you look at the top 30 counties for SNAP participation, 26 of them are rural. So, this is not an urban-rural issue. This is not a black-white issue. Politicians have long been using race to divide people with low incomes, to keep them from uniting against the people in power. And we need to not fall for it. We just need to not fall for
Right.
it. So, yes, continue just keeping the pressure on your elected officials, because they are feeling the heat. I don't know when we might get to the tipping point where we'll make a difference in their votes, but I can tell you for sure they are feeling it in a way that they have not in recent history.
No one really gets a pass on this. There's no state that gets a pass. When the people are suffering, like we will all suffer. I do think that. I think no matter where
Oh,
you
for
are,
sure.
this is
For
impacting our
sure.
entire country. Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. And
We're all integrated with each other, whether it's economy or, everything. What happens to the least of us happens to all of us to some extent, in my belief. So,
so, Julie, yeah, we really appreciate your time and your expertise and really your compassion, in addition to your passion on this knowledge. Can you tell us, what does the matriarchy mean to you?
To me, a matriarchy would mean that we no longer live in a society that's based on this false dichotomy of domination and submission. There's no one group that is the upper class and another group or several other groups who are meant to be a permanent underclass. That the full array of human existence, dare I say the diversity of human existence, would be celebrated and honored, and everybody would be given the opportunities to live their best life in a way that is accessible to them. So regardless of your disability, your race, your gender expression, any of that stuff, we all deserve to live full lives, being true to ourselves. And to me, that is what the matriarchy means.
I
thank
love
you.
that.
I do too.
I also love, before we let you go, I know you have meetings to go to, but I really appreciated what you said about empowering people. And it seems to me that food assistance is actually a way to empower people, to help
Mhm.
them take care of themselves and their family when the we just there's a gap, right? There's a gap between, you can work full time and you still can't make ends meet. And I appreciate the work you're doing on that.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you to Representative Carter for fighting that good fight. I can see the love you have for your community that just shines right through. And, like you said, this is how we're going to get through this, is by taking care of each other. So
Thank
Yes.
you. And if you're not doing anything November 10th, please come down. I'll
I
send
will
the
put that on my
information out to
calendar.
you. Thank you.
Yep.
So, all right. Bye, Julie. So I'm going to turn to Rep Carter now. So, Representative Carter, I thank you so, so much for coming on today. And your wisdom and your energy is just, you're one of the people that I always think of or turn to when I'm feeling a little bit hopeless, because I know how hard that you work and through all the odds that you've gone through in your life, that you're at this place that you're at. So, having said that, and it sounds like you have a lot of experience with matriarchy. So, in a broader scheme, what does a matriarchy mean to you?
I think matriarchy means to me both a calling and a responsibility. You have to be really compassionate about what you're doing. And I recently went through probably one of the strongest transitional points in my life when I lost the matriarch of our family, which was
Mhm.
my sister Carolyn, who passed away last week. She was the
Oh,
matriarch,
okay.
and
Oh,
I never really credited her with that role, because she was always my big sister until
Yeah.
she passed. And guess who became the matriarch? And I realized when that happened, oh my God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the person that everybody goes to. But in realizing that, I'm already the matriarch because I have 93,000 people in my district who can walk up to my door and ask me for some food or ask me for some clothes, or in the case of Robin McGregor asking me to come over and bring food to a special needs school. I'm already the matriarch, but what I'm saying is that maybe being a matriarch is a calling, okay? On all levels, because it gives you an opportunity to help other people, to take the pain away from people. And becoming the matriarch, even though the pain of losing my sister was severe, every time I go out and help somebody else, the pain goes away. So that's
Oh,
what that's
yeah.
what
I love
matriarchy
that.
means to me.
I love that. And I'm so sorry about your sister. I did not know.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's okay. If you see me out there working on Facebook, Lisa, there she goes again. She wakes up in the middle of the night and she's posting something or she's doing something. And that's my way of saying thank you to my sister Carol.
Yeah.
yeah.
That service is
Like,
a way of taking care of yourself as well, I feel.
It
yeah.
helps. I tell you, Kath, it really, really helps because when I start going down that path, all of a sudden I say, oh, well, what can I do? How can I make somebody else's life better? And in doing so, we're actually making others' lives better. This podcast is going to touch a lot of people and it's going to help them. That's what
That's what we
matriarchs
hope.
are
That's
all
what we're
about.
looking for.
Yeah.
That's what matriarchs are all about.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do here is present information in another way, a different way maybe than some places that will hopefully help some people. So we really are so grateful that you came on because I think the information that you and Julie shared today, I think is going to help a lot of people. And we do need to keep fighting the good fight and reaching out to our Congress people and elected representatives and keep pushing for a better country to take care of each other. And, economy is important, of course, and we focus so much on business, but we also need to take care of the people. Like the economy, the country is there to serve the people, not the other way around, right? So,
Absolutely. What they say, we the
yeah.
people.
We the people, yes. And now let's see, November 10th. What day is that?
It's
Next week?
on next Monday at the Boeing
Next Monday?
Center, 59
Okay.
Bagley Street. Like I
Yep.
said, it's going to be a huge resource fair, and it's not limited to Pontiac, Waterford, Auburn Hills, Rochester
Okay.
Hills. If there's someone there
Cool.
in need, just
Okay.
come and talk to these experts. Like I said, repeating again, MISTA for housing, MDHHS for healthcare. We're having Michigan Association of Health Plans for insurance. These are all of these
Nice.
things, code enforcement, all of these things that you could walk up to these tables and say, hey, I got this notice.
Mhm.
Help me fill it out. Explain
Yeah.
to me what's going on. Because maybe they need to hear it because they can't read it.
Yeah.
And if they
Yeah.
can read it, they don't
So,
understand it. So be
yeah.
there, please, if you can. Kath, you too. I
Yeah.
don't know what city you're in. I
Okay.
know where Lisa lives. I have her on speed dial. But where are you from, Kath? You can tell us much about you.
Oh, sure. I'm in Rochester Hills. So
Oh,
not
okay.
far. I'm your
You're
neighbor. Yeah.
part of Lisa's group. Yay!
Yeah. Yeah. I sure am.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
slowly dragging her in. She hasn't joined yet, but now maybe she will since you've said such nice things about me.
Yeah.
And she is Kath. I've always called on Lisa, no matter what, whether it's the holiday extravaganza parade, the Juneteenth parade, anything. I've say, Lisa, I need your help, and she would come. Waterford Dems is like that, and so is North Oakland. So we've got
Okay.
a cluster of dem clubs that we're not. I mean, we're political, but we're also about people. And when we call on the people
Yeah.
to show up, we do show up. And in this particular situation, all of these Democratic clubs border a city in crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you could
Yeah.
come and see, just come and see how the people will
Yeah.
respond to
I'd like
you.
that.
You will know.
Well, it sounds an awful lot like a matriarchy.
Yes.
It sounds awful. the matriarchy. You call on
It does.
people around you to help support you.
Right, right. That's how it should be, right? Yeah.
It's
So,
exactly how it should be. Yeah, we
yeah,
are brothers
yeah,
and sisters in need, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, we
exactly.
need each other. What time is the event, Rep Carter?
And that's a good question. Thank you for reminding me of that. It starts at 5 p.m. and goes from 5 to 7. So Haley's going to probably
Okay.
be in there at the front of the event, because she's got
Okay.
a busy schedule. But after that, we'll have all these other resource tables around the room, and you can kind of get a feel. But I would encourage you both just to talk to the people. Because when you talk to the people, you give them hope. You will see yourself in them, even if you were born in privilege. You'll be able to see them. Your heart will tell you, I can do something to help this person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Now,
Well,
thank
thank you
you
for the
both.
invite. I will definitely come by, and I always love talking to you, Rep Carter.
Well,
So thank you for
you've been a
coming.
blessing to me, Lisa,
Yeah.
and
Right back
we're
at
we're
you.
we're,
Yeah,
we're gonna get through this. We are,
we are.
we're
We
gonna
are.
save lives. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. All right.
Okay, well, I'm
Bye.
gonna hop off too. I'm gonna let you guys do your homework. I hope you guys got some good footage from both me and Julie. It was
I
a
think so.
pleasure listening to
We
her. I
did.
just loved her,
Yeah.
so definitely she's a wealth of information, and even though she didn't grow up like I did, she understands.
Yeah. And we're so glad that you came on and shared your perspective as well, because it's a really important one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
All
you. And
right,
thank you for all
Bye.
the work that you're doing.
bye.
Bye. Oh, that was a lot
Lisa.
of good information.
It sure was. And these two women, they're doing it, right? From the
Yeah.
policy part to putting policy in action, especially in a really hard hit area. For our listeners who aren't in Michigan, Pontiac has always faced a lot of challenges, a lot of economic challenges.
Yeah.
And so to see what Rep Carter is doing to literally empower her people to be like, they're like, I don't understand this form. Well, let me help you suss it out.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hungry. Okay, I will feed you. Like,
Mhm.
isn't that what we're all about? Or we
Isn't
should
that what
be.
an elected representative should do too, though? Like, that's why I just love her so much, because I really think she does truly embody what an elected representative should. You're supposed to
Yes.
represent your people and what they need and who they are, and that's she lives and breathes that. And she's just, I just have such admiration for her. So I was so happy when she said she would come on, because I knew she would be able to share so much good information with us, and she did. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, from her
so
lived experience, not only from her childhood, but also
yeah,
as a representative of the people. I mean, she does bring that, of course, extra compassion to the works that she does because she has lived it. It's amazing to me that you can grow up in such difficult circumstances and, rise to be a state representative.
well, that's the beauty of our country, or the way what our country has been, right? And this is what we're fighting for right now, is to make sure that we still live in a country where somebody can start in one place and move to another place, like have this ability to move through the system, in terms of maybe you didn't get I'm not saying this about Rep Carter, but for a person maybe who didn't get the best education or something like that, but they're able to still rise and get to the point where they are well educated. This is the crux of the United States of America. This is who we're supposed to be. This is
Yeah.
why people strive to immigrate here. This is why people like have held us up as like a wonderful example in the world. And here we are trying to tear that down. Well, not me, not you, but there are people who are trying to take that
No, there
down,
are.
you know?
Yeah, well, and
So,
basically what you've kind of just said is pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And we do offer
kind of,
that.
yeah. But
And
within systems that maybe were there to help too, right? If the systems allow for it, right? So you pull
yes,
yourself up by your bootstraps, but there also has to be systems available so that's, there's a
exactly.
path, I guess. There's a path. Yeah.
I don't think you should have to be extraordinary in order to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like,
Right.
you
Exactly.
can be a very mediocre student in a wealthy district and still go to college, and you maybe have the resources to it. But like our systems are a bit out of whack because on the one hand, we want to empower people, but it's really hard to empower people that are hungry, that don't have um, a place to
Yeah.
live, that don't have secure housing,
Yeah.
that can't read. So if you
Yeah.
can't read, how are you going to fill out the forms just to get food, right?
This
Which
is right.
is,
And not only that, like, because I've done some work with this in terms of housing insecurity and, with folks that are in these positions. And a lot of times this stuff has to be done online, or they need particular birth certificates or something that they can't get to get this. They don't have their birth certificate with them. So a lot of times there's so many barriers. They don't have access to a
yeah,
computer. They don't have access to a phone, even like a
Wi-Fi,
smartphone
yeah.
sometimes. Wi-Fi. They don't even have the money to go and get their birth certificate from a clerk or something, a county clerk. So there's so many barriers here, and there's really not enough help. I mean, beyond the food issue, there's just not enough help in this space at all. And perhaps that's another podcast to just kind of talk about that, just how there's a lack of help there because yes, if you think about it, geniuses are born at every economic level.
Yes. Yeah.
The person that could come up with the next, life-saving, cancer-ridding, drug or something, maybe that never happens because that person got born in a situation that they can't get to school. That's crazy. We should be lifting up everybody. We should be, bringing the
Yeah.
best out of everybody, like Julie was saying, like 100%. We have a lot of work to do.
And I think that, like you were saying, like the American dream is to be able to cross class. We do encourage the individualism, but it can't exist in a vacuum. And we need to create these systems that are beneficial, or have the potential to be beneficial for all, right? Like,
Yeah,
and there's so much inherent bias and inequity where we are
there
that.
is.
Yeah, and I think that what we're trying to do with this podcast is highlight these inequities and
For sure.
address these systemic issues. That these are systemic issues. Just funding SNAP, which hopefully by the end of the week the federal government will get its shit together and like put the money that they already have set aside and actually feed the people of the United States. It is just
Yeah.
it is beyond me that this is even a conversation.
They pitted healthcare versus food. I mean, basically, the subject matter is affecting, a cross section of this. These groups are both people that are affected by SNAP and also by high insurance premiums. There are a lot of the same people, let's say, with a little bit of a divergence. But the fact that it's an either or thing. And my fear is it's
Yeah.
only a matter of time before they take away the food anyways. I mean, their mindset is not to take care of people right now. And that, and
No.
it's not everybody in Washington, I understand, but the majority,
The people in power. It's the
let's just
people in
face it,
power.
they have all three house, they have the full power in Washington. This is why people have to call their Congress people. They have to
Yeah.
put pressure on to get this budget deal done. So,
Well, what was interesting to me is how Julie described the Medicare, like the holdup, and it's basically like, oh, you're removing a tax. You're kind of you're leveling the playing field. Um,
right,
on this Medicare tax. And I
right.
don't think I fully really understood it until she put it in those terms. And I'm like, oh, and this is part of the thing. Like you hear things like Medicare and socialism and like, no, no, no. Let's back up and talk about this specific issue, right? Like let's not go into fear mongering. This is this is making it so that people, for whatever reason, if they don't have medical insurance through their employer, they are at a disadvantage for a number of reasons, but one of which is a tax issue that really should be, across the board fair, and it's not. It's a burden on anyone who's not working full time in a big corporation, right?
It's
Like,
also it's also small business owners. It's also, I mean, there's a lot of
yeah,
people
yeah,
that don't
yeah,
buy
you're
in,
right.
that don't work for a corporation. And so it's not just poor people, and what we think of as poor people. You know, and so it is an equity issue, and I mean, I know people don't for some reason like that word equity anymore, but equity is equity, and hopefully we, really, if you really think about it, we should all want some sort of equitable policy out there for everybody.
Yeah. And just to kind
But
of like dissect that word just like a little bit, is that,
yeah,
you want people to have an equal opportunity, but the way we come to it is like you need to meet people where they are, right?
yeah,
And so it's like, well, if you have, say, one child needs a wheelchair, they don't all need a wheelchair. One child needs a pair of glasses.
right,
Not every
right,
kid needs a pair of glasses. Like, we don't issue glasses across the board. If you can see, you don't need them. And so
right,
that's the part where, like, equality, I'm putting this in air quotes a little bit, is not always the best indicator of efficiency, right?
right,
And I think
right,
that's where we are with food stamps, or sorry, SNAP, is that this is an equity issue because some people work full time and don't need food assistance, but some people work full time and still need food assistance. They're working
yeah,
at least 40 hours. I've read articles that are people were holding down 2 or even 3 jobs. They
it's
still
true.
can't make their ends meet. And, you know, what are we doing? Letting people starve? Like, literally, that's what we've come down to. Like,
Yeah,
children are going hungry, and the federal government's okay with this? And what you said too is like they're trying to they're trying to pit us against each other, or they're trying to pit
yeah,
Medicaid versus food assistance. But the
mhm.
real thing that we should be pitting against is who's getting these tax breaks. We should be pitting against tax
It's
breaks
corporate
for
welfare.
corporate welfare. Exactly.
Yeah.
We
There's
do live in
plenty
a
of
socialist
socialism
state.
for corporations right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do have socialism, but it's corporate socialism.
Corporate
Like,
socialism.
what we really should be pitting against is taxing tax breaks for not only corporations, but for the very wealthy. Or even if they
Yeah.
paid their damn taxes, like they are taking money away from the IRS because the IRS can't keep up. If people just paid what they actually owed, let alone all the
Right.
loopholes, let alone all the tricks, the wealthy pay you because they can
Right.
afford attorneys.
Right.
Just if they collected what people owed,
Yeah.
and you had like a government agency that was overseeing that to just collect that, we wouldn't be where we are today. We would
Agree.
have a much more fair society. And it's because the people in power are the people in power, but also it's like our wealth. I know I keep going to this, Lisa, but our wealth disparity hasn't been to this level since just before the Great Depression. We are back where we were 100 years ago.
Did-
It-
Yeah, I know. And like, did you see what the Trump people, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna call it right out, what they did, the party they had on Halloween night? Did you see the footage from that?
I had
They
heard
had like
about
a
it. I
great
didn't see. It was a Great Gatsby
Gatsby type. I
theme.
mean, like harkening back to that time, and like, right before everything fell
So
apart.
tone deaf.
And like they're talking about taking away food from people, and then they have this party, and it
In a
they're
ballroom.
I'm sorry, but they are trolling us. They are trolling us.
But if you were to write a script about what is happening right now, it would not get greenlit because it is so ridiculous. This is beyond let them eat cake. This is building
Yeah,
ballrooms. This
I
is
know. I know.
having parties.
It's
This is redecorating the White House
they tore
in
down a third
gold.
of the White House. I'm like, what? Like, and
And
they're
we
going to
can't
spend
feed
all
our
that
people
money.
or
What?
offer
We didn't
health
need to
care.
tear any of the White House down. We don't need to spend any money on the White House right now. Like, what? I mean, and it's all become, you're right. Like, it's almost so unbelievable, but that I think that most of us are just kind of like frozen in like, what do we even do? Right? Like, what do we even do? And I think so many of us have been calling our Congress people and we just feel so frustrated, but we do have to keep doing it. We do have to keep doing it.
Yes,
Um,
it matters.
but
Yeah.
it matters, but they're out of control. Like the Trump administration is out of control. And it, we just have to stay on top of it. We have to keep doing what we're doing. But at the same time, getting back to what we were talking about with Rep Carter, we need to like help our local communities as much as possible. We need to
Exactly.
organize, create mutual aid, be there for each other. And I love what she was saying, about just like even just showing up and showing that you care goes a long way for these folks. And
Yes.
I do, because I wanted to circle about what you were saying before about like all the stresses. They are under a lot of stress. Imagine, like, I have to, like, I'm under stress just because I'm watching all this around me. But personally, I'm going to be honest, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. But if I was worried how to put food on my table or how I was going to pay
Yeah.
my rent or, any millions of things that you need to do for your children, and most of them cost money. Um, that stress level, well, then that's going to make you sick. That's going to make it harder to remember all the things that you need to be doing, filling out all your paperwork, doing all these things. And, so if we can, as people who are a little bit more privileged in life, not only show up in terms of material type stuff, but also just show up and just like she was saying, just show up and be there,
Yeah.
show that you care, ask how people are doing, because sometimes they just need to talk too.
Yeah.
Like it's, just a little conversation, right? And that goes a long way too, just showing you care. So anyways, I thought that was
Well,
a really
and
important point that Rep Carter made. Yeah.
I did too. And it goes to what we've been talking about since the beginning of this podcast is being a community. And that's
Yeah.
how we kind of get over this. Yeah, I mean, if you are wondering how you're going to feed your family, and now we're heading into winter and the holidays, and
Yeah.
all these things are compounding, you're not paying attention to politics. Like, and that's the point, right? The point is that your life is so stressed that you don't have the bandwidth.
This is a time, well, quite a time to be alive, I gotta say. But the good news is we have lots of opportunities to help people.
Yeah.
Um, let's not sit at home and not do that. Like showing up to vote is very important this week.
Yeah.
Voting for the right people, like, is very important. And but also reaching into your communities and helping in any way that your bandwidth allows is also really, really important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like you were saying, it's easy to get stuck in this outrage because it is outrageous. The things that are happening right now are outrageous, but channeling that into local action, which
Yeah.
Rep Carter really highlighted beautifully.
She did.
And it really, like, you can get stuck in this, and then all you want to do, you're in overwhelm, you just put your head in the sand, but let's not do that. Instead, let's show up for each other. Maybe your capacity is donating to a food pantry.
Yeah.
Maybe your capacity is collecting signatures on ballot initiatives that are important to you. That's where I'm putting some of my energy in.
We could do a little bit of both. I mean, we could do both, do a couple things. I think, and I do see some people, it's like organizations, like if you're in an organization, you might want to think of adopting a family, not just for like the holidays, but like for a longer term, just to kind of be there
Mhm.
to help them fill out those paperwork, that sort of thing. I think that's a brilliant idea. It's hard to do just by yourself, but if you have a a group, a community that you're in, like you can do that. I think there's just so much to do. It's just a matter of thinking it through and getting into the action mode. So,
And
but
there's different levels. Like, I understand that people are feeling overwhelmed and, it is the holidays coming up and all that, but there's lots of ways to help. There's lots of ways
yeah,
to help.
sure, for
There's
sure.
time and there's money, and then there's service, and there's just listening to people. So I think service can be self-care and self-care can be service. So
100%,
um,
100%.
that was
Feeling
my
sad, go out
meditation
and
this
help somebody
morning.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's true. It really
So
does work. I mean, it took me a long time to figure that out, but when I did, I'm like, yeah, that's the best way for me to get it like out of my sadness is to go out and help somebody. Um,
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It works for me.
We encourage people to give back where you can.
It is true. There is a lot of ways to give back. So, anyways, what a time. Okay.
Well, Lisa, I appreciate you getting Rep. Carter on and having Julie from the Michigan League for Public Policy to kind of explain more about food, not only food benefits, but also the intersection with healthcare, for in secure housing, and all of this kind of plays together. And we just really appreciate both of their time. They're doing such important work. So we really appreciate their time to talk to us and our audience
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it was really, really important, and for me, it provided so much clarity. So thank you, Kath, for getting Julie to join us, and thank you to both of them for joining us on their busy schedules. And we look forward to getting this episode out as soon as possible. And as always, please remember to like and follow and comment and do all those things. I know we sound like a broken record, but we really do appreciate anything that you can do for us.
Yeah, and in your comments, tell us how you're helping out. Tell us about some of the organizations in your community that other people can join, that they can donate to, that they can help. That would be great. So, yeah, well, thank you, Lisa, and as always, really appreciate you and our audience, and welcome to the Matriarchy.
Welcome to our community.